Hi everyone, Jamie Humphries here for Six String Alliance, and in this video we are taking a look at the Greg Howe signature lick box pedal by Carl Martin. So through my visits to Henning Pauli's 42 Gear Street event, I met up with the guys from Carl Martin, or should I say their distributor in Germany. And from that meeting, ended up forging a relationship with the guys at Carl Martin in Denmark. They're just down the road from me here in Sweden. And they asked if I was interested in looking at a couple of pedals. Now, although it says paid promotion, I'm not getting paid for this. They sent me the pedals, so I did some videos. But as I'm always as honest as I should be with you all, I only ever look at products here on the channel that I think are cool. I don't really see the point of looking at a product and going, well, I don't think that's very good. It's not very good for me. It's not very inspiring for me, and it's certainly not very good for the company involved. So I had some experience with these pedals, and I thought that they would be a little bit of fun for me to check out. Now, Carl Martin sent me two pedals. They sent me the Plexi Ranger, which we'd already looked at because they thought that that would be something I would be interested in because of the treble booster side of it. The other pedal being the lick box, because I'm such a huge Greg Howe fan. I've been listening to Greg Howe since the late 80s. Now, I kind of put this pedal off a little bit, basically because I wanted to do something that I felt that was in keeping with Greg's style when it came to the performance track. And so that was quite hard for me to do. So I kind of did the track and then sort of kept toing and froing with my ideas. And, I wanted to be able to play something in front of the camera that was kind of good and hopefully reflected the kind of style and tone that we associate with Greg. Now, Greg Howe needs no long introductions. He's had an incredible career. He's one of the original shrapnel guitar players. He was featured in Mike Varney's Spotlight column, which resulted in him working with shrapnel. And his albums range from hard rock, even neoclassical, but we all kind of know him as an incredibly accomplished fusion guitar player. On top of that, Greg has had an incredible career as a sideman, as a guitar for hire, working with the likes of NSYNC, Justin Timberlake, Enrique Iglesias, and even Michael Jackson. Now, I've been a huge Greg Howe fan since the late 80s. I was one of those kids that went into the music shop and got the Fender poster of him with the HM Strat and all those Fender amp stacks. And it was when I was having lessons with Phil Hilborn that Phil really got me into the shrapnel albums, and I bought all of Greg Howe's albums religiously, from his debut album right the way through to all of the fusion stuff, Introspection, Parallax. Those albums for me were huge influence during the 90s. And also two albums in particular that really stand out. I was a massive Richie Kotzen fan, still am, but the two albums that Greg did with Richie, I had those on order and bought them the day that they came out, paid ridiculous amounts of money for these import CDs. So those albums had a huge effect on me as a guitar player. Not really the kind of style of guitar playing that you probably associate me with, seeing how I play on the channel, but I've always sort of dipped my toe into it a little bit in the privacy of my own room. I've never really been that confident enough to sort of try and play that style. Forgive me for my intro track. I've tried to sort of nod some of those lines and some of the changes that you hear in Greg's style of music. Now, I've always loved Greg Howe's sound. He has a very unique guitar sound. There's quite a pronounced mid-range to it. And also it's quite a dark sound as well. It was there was just something about his sound. It was very round sounding. You always knew it was his sound. And so I was really keen to check out the lick box, which is his signature pedal, which he had a lot of involvement in terms of how the different channels of the pedal were voiced. Now, the first time I checked out this pedal was at the first 42 Gear Street event, 42 Gear Street 2 that I went to, and myself and my buddy Sam Bell checked this pedal out. Sam's also a big Greg Howe fan. And I must admit, I was a bit sort of confused by it because it didn't really sound like the Greg Howe sound. Obviously, we play how we play, but when, I'm one of those guitar players that doesn't shy away from signature equipment. I know some people go, just in it for the money, it's just this pedal that's been branded, whatever. I don't really care about that. If I'm into guitar, I'm into players, especially the Van Halen thing. I've really bought into that. And when you buy certain pieces of equipment, you kind of know what you're going to get. So when I plugged into this at first, I was expecting to kind of hear that sound. And it wasn't until I really started digging into the pedal and speaking to one of my buddies at Carl Martin, he sort of said, you need to do this with it. This is the way that the pedal works. That I then discovered that sound, that Greg Howe sound. So the pedal is quite unusual in the way it works. Okay, so let's look at the layout of the pedal. Obviously, you've got your input and your output. You've got your 9-volt power supply input here. And then we have our 3 independent channels. Now, watching a video with Greg where he's talking about the pedal, the idea is that you could turn, I think he said, if you're turning up on a gig and there's just a Fender Twin and you're playing Metallica covers, this pedal has got you covered. It's got a high gain channel, it's got a crunch channel, and it's got a clean boost. Now, when I was with Sam in Germany and we plugged into this, I made a very inaccurate assumption. Most pedals, you would have the boost first, and then you'd stack them in order of their kind of the gain structure. So I expected it to go boost, crunch, and then high gain. But it doesn't. It goes the other way round. We come in first, gain stage that you hit is the high gain. Then we have the crunch, and then we have the boost at the end. So the layout of the pedal, basically on the two sort of gainy channels, the crunch and the high gain, you have your volume control, you have your gain control, and then we just have a tone control. But the tone controls are really powerful on this pedal, and they have been voiced in a very specific way to Greg's requirements. For instance, the high gain channel has a lot more low end and a lot more of a pronounced top end, where I guess a kind of scooped a mid-range. So, that's your high gain. That will do that thing. And then we have the crunch channel. This is a really dynamic channel, and the tone control is voiced very differently. Now, the idea is that you stack the high gain into the crunch, and by doing so, you roll off a little bit of the low end of the high gain sound and start to bring in more mid. And that's the secret. If you kind of use these two channels stacked together, you start to hear that Greg Howe sound, or at least to my ears you do. So during the demo track, I used the channels independently. I avoided the boost channel, and we'll talk about that why I did that in a moment. But I used for the main melody and the solos, I went for the high gain stacked into the crunch, to give me that sort of very pronounced mid-range. But then for the chorus, I just used the high gain with the gain back down a bit, and I was using more of a single coil sound. I wanted a bit more of a scooped sort of tone for that. And during the introduction, I was using the crunch on its own. So there was a lot of tones that I was able to produce from this pedal during that front end track. We had that sort of funky, sort of pushed sound at the front end. We had a nice smooth, lots of mid in the sound for the main melody. And then the chorus was a little bit more, as I said, defined with the low end, and the top end with that single coil tone. Now, when it comes to the boost control, this is at the end. So this is the thing that took me by surprise, because normally the boost, you would use that to drive the other gain stages. But in this pedal, that's not the case. Yes, you can use each of the channels independently, and you can use the boost channel on its own. If you stick that into a driven amp, it's going to give you more saturation. Or you can, if you're using a clean amp and you use it, it will just make your sound a little bit more dynamic. But using it in conjunction with the other channels, it acts as an output boost. So you can use it as a line or signal boost to push your solos. The other thing as well is that these volume controls are really powerful. I've got them set to match pretty much my clean tone that I'm using. But for your lead sound, you could actually push the crunch volume a little bit more, or it'd be the crunch sound. Sorry, I nearly told myself a lie then. You would push the crunch volume a little bit more, so that when you engage that, you've got a little bit of a solo boost. But then if you needed a little bit more boost volume wise on top of that, then you could hit the boost. So there's a lot of scope here for really kind of dialing this pedal in to get some great tones and making it very workable within a live situation. Now, I've had to be a little bit careful with the boost. I've set the boost at the kind of optimum level that I want to use it before. It makes my amp a little bit too compressed, and also so that it doesn't clip the front end. Obviously, when I'm recording, I've got a compressor just to kind of control things, but I don't want to be like really pushing it. So we will look at that independently, but I don't want to mess around too much with that control and then, ruin my recording of this demo. So before we get into listening to the pedal, let's just talk about my gear today. I'm using number one. This guitar I've played for 23 years, 24 years now. As you can see from the back of it, it's done a lot of gigs and a lot of tours. This is like an old pair of slippers. I kind of semi-retired it a little bit because I've been using the single coil Axis, the one that Music Man so graciously let me design with them. Plus I had that new BFR, which just looks incredibly striking on video. So this guitar had been a little bit neglected. So before I went out on tour recently, I had this set up and it's just playing so well. And I picked it up the other day and was, oh my God, this is why I play this guitar so much. It just feels so comfortable and I can get so many sounds out of it. This is the one that you see on all my old Lick Library DVDs. Pickup wise, this one has got different pickups to what it had when I originally had it. I don't know whether that was a mistake or not. I have thought about changing the bridge pickup back to the original, but I've got the 36th anniversary PAFs, which are quite low output, and it's kind of given this guitar quite a distinct sound. I'm running into my usual little studio rig that I use for my demos and my performances, which is my Mesa Mini Rec going directly into the Mesa Cab Clone IR, where I am using a Mesa 4x12. I love Cab Clone IR. I do use the 2-note stuff. This is a 2-notes designed unit, but it's just, for me, sometimes it's a little bit quicker. Just turn a dial and select your IR. I just know exactly what sound I'm going to get very quickly. So, yeah, definitely worth you checking out. And I love the Mini Rec. That's a real powerhouse of an amplifier. Now, when it came to the track for the tones there, yes, there was some production going on. I always like to be honest. I like to see how equipment will work in a real world situation, if you like. So there was some EQ going on to make the guitars sit. Again, I've said this before. I'm not EQing the guitars because they necessarily sound bad. I EQ them to make them fit within a song. So normally that's a little bit of rolling off of top end, or, you know, shelving the top and shelving the low end just to make it sit. And if there's a specific sound I'm going for, then I might do a little bit of surgical work there. But again, it was mainly on the kind of more high gain sound that I did a little bit more work. But the single coil sounds during the chorus section pretty much had nothing done to them. That was a really sweet tone. It was just when you start getting into the stacking, just making sure that the guitar tone sat right within the track. But that's going to be normal with any guitar sound when it comes to recording. I used the 2290 DT delay, the TC Electronics plugin. I used a little bit of the spatial expander because I love that slight sort of modulation and giving the width to the sound. And I also used a Lexicon reverb, which was in the UAD. Okay, let's kick things off by having a listen to my clean tone. So this is the split coil tone. This is the 2 outer coils. If I go onto the bridge humbucker. Okay, so now let's engage the high gain channel. I'm not going to touch the volumes purely because I've got them set, so we're pretty much at the same level as my amp. Straight away, you can hear that that's a really nice sounding channel on its own. That's just with the gain halfway up. Let's just back the gain down a little bit. It will clean up. It's a really dynamic sounding pedal, this. I really like this. Back off some of the tone. Let's just have a listen to the sweep of the tone control. I push it up halfway. And then push it up a little bit more. Okay, all the way up. It's going to be way too bright. But you can hear you've got a wide tonal sweep there. If I start to push the gain up as well, you can hear that. It's got quite a... Okay, so let's just push the gain up a little bit more now and have a listen to that in conjunction with the tone control. I love that sound. I think it's a really nice lead tone. That. It's really smooth sounding if we push the tone control up a bit. Now, I think that the high gain channel is a really well voiced channel. There's plenty of gain there. It's very dynamic. If I push the gain down and bring down the tone, you can get some quite nice, rich, fat lead tones. Or you can push it all the way and start to get very... plenty of saturation. So really musical channel that. All right, let's move over now to the crunch channel. And this is voiced very differently. With the, again, we're not going to mess around with the volume control because I've got it set basically. So I've got the tone and the gain set halfway. I really like this with the kind of single coil sound I had. Push up the gain a bit. You can hear straight away there's a little bit more of a pronounced mid in there. Make it a little bit darker. You can hear it there that you're kind of getting that hint at his tone when you're on this channel. Let's push the tone control up further. That's really nice. Push the gain up again. It's got a single coil. Okay, so following on from that, we have the boost. Now, if we just listen to my my clean amp tone, if I turn on the boost, it's got louder and it's started to push the valves slightly. So you have to be a little bit cautious with this. If you push it a bit too much, you can get a little bit too much saturation. But again, if I just backing down the volume, going onto the neck pickup, it's kind of added a little bit more, I don't know, little bit of something, made the sound a little bit more dynamic. But the other thing is the volume boost. You know, if I go on to, say, the high gain sound, having the boost control at the end of the signal chain will give you a nice little lift as a solo boost. So probably a little bit too much in terms of adding it for the kind of dynamic purposes of your clean tone, if you like. It was maybe pushing it a bit much. So back it off slightly. If I turn it off, bring it in, oops, moved it. You can hear what I mean? It just kind of fattens the tone up as it's pushing the front of the amp a little harder. Now, obviously, you could also use that to push an already driven amp if you desire to push your amp into a smoother overdrive. It will act as a traditional boost. But in terms of stacking it with the other channels being at the end of the signal chain, it's more of a line boost. So just to wrap things up, let's have a little bit of fun stacking the high gain channel into the crunch channel. Let's turn that on. So we've got a kind of generic... Okay, nice little bleed sound there. I nearly fell off of the guitar then. That's nothing new. Now let's push that into the crunch channel and let's have a listen. You can hear straight away, there's a lot more mid-range in there. It's a little bit too saturated. Let's bring down some of that gain. I'm going to darken things up by bringing down the tone. You can hear it's definitely rolled off the low end. When I go turn that channel off, you've got that more kind of pronounced upper top end and low end. It's back down the tone ever so slightly. Now when we bring in the crunch, can you hear that? The mid-range has really changed. So just by, let's push it up the tone on there now. You have to watch the gain a little bit. It can become a little bit too compressed. We can bring up the volume. Now I'm having to push the level up a little bit. Okay, let's have a little experiment now. Dropping the gain down, I think, on the high gain channel, and experiment a little bit by pushing more gain on the crunch channel. You can hear that mid-range, definitely. If I go back onto this channel, there's that low end, bringing the crunch channel. I'm just going to drop. I don't know which way round I prefer it, whether I prefer to have drop the gain here and push the gain on the crunch channel. I'm kind of leaning more towards that now that I'm doing a little bit more knob twiddling with the pedal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the gain down even further and push it up more on the crunch channel, and just experiment a bit more with the tone. I think that's really, really, really nice. Pull that tone down more. Yeah, there's some great sounds that you can get out of this, just experimenting with which gain you're pushing, which is the higher gain. You have to be a little bit careful. That can get a little bit too saturated. Okay, so just to finish things up, I'm going to bring in the boost control. Let's have a listen first. That's really nice. Bring in the boost. Oops, there we go. Move the pedal again. That's really nice. That's really, really nice. Let's have a listen without the boost. Just adding that boost is just making it, just lifting the signal slightly, but it's also just doing something really nice to the sound. To watch the gain a bit, it can get a little bit too squishy for me, and it sort of loses the kind of dynamics a little bit. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, that. There's lots going on with that pedal. So there you have it, the Greg Howe Lick Box. This is a really versatile pedal. I was a little unsure about the having the boost at the end, to be honest with you, when I started using the pedal. I did shy away from it a little bit, I think, but the more time I spend experimenting with this and adjusting which gain I push, you can find certain different sweet spots. You know, I'm probably not doing it as much justice as it deserves, really. But at first glance, I just thought it was 3 independent channels that you stacked. We've seen it all before, but there is a little something different going on with this pedal. I really like that you can get that kind of meaty rhythm sound out of it with the defined top end and a lot of that, you know, nice pronounced low end. But then as soon as you kick in the drive, it kind of rolls off, or should I say the crunch, it rolls off some low end, it introduces some mid, so then your lead tone sits nicer within the mix. You can also push the volume up on that channel so that when you introduce your lead channel, it goes a little bit further. And then you've got even more control over your level, as well as adding a little bit more thickness to the sound by introducing the boost. Okay, so regardless of whether you are a Greg Howe fan or not, this is a really interesting pedal. I have a really unhealthy obsession with drive pedals, and I think that this is it's going to be a pedal that will find a use in my collection. Like I said, I'm not being paid to say great things about this pedal. The pedal was supplied to me. I haven't been paid for this demo. I wanted to look at this pedal because I played it before and thought it was interesting, even though I'd completely misunderstood the pedal. So I only really look at things here that I think are interesting and that would appeal to me. So hopefully this pedal has appealed to you, and it's definitely something worth checking out. You know, if you're a Greg Howe fan, you can get that tone. And even if you're not a Greg Howe fan, then you've got 3 independent gain stages, different voicing, well, 2 independent gain stages with different voicings, different EQ voicings, fully stackable with independent volumes, plus you have a boost as well. Use that boost independently to push an already driven amp, or use it as a line booster for pushing the signal slightly harder into your amplifier, get a little bit more thickness and a little bit more volume. Plus, with the independent volume controls here, you've got a lot of control to be able to set up different levels when it comes to your lead tone. Okay, so that's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed this demo. I hope I haven't bored you too much. I know I like to chat, but that's just my videos. And I never really know what to play. I'm always a little bit, what do I play? So hopefully what I've done here has given some justice to this great pedal. If not, just watch the demo track, because I think that kind of speaks for itself. Anyway, that's it for me. Hope you've enjoyed the video. See you soon. Bye for now.